Hey, media, we'll get started here with Don Sweeney in just a minute. If you want to get in the queue to ask Don a question, please hit the raise hand button now. We'll get started with Matt Porter. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Travis, and hi, Don. Boy, is there a lot to ask you about right now. Let's start with the net minding. What is the plan in goal? Is Linus Ullmark healthy? Do you still see Tuukka Rask as an option down the road? And what does this all mean for Jeremy Swayman?
Well, three-pronged question, Matt. Yes, Linus is healthy and excited to be a Boston Bruin. Fortunate to have the opportunity to bring a goaltender at a primary age, wealth of experience, and we just think that where we were currently sitting with two young goaltenders, we need to be prepared. Allow Tuukka all the time he needs to get healthy. He's just had surgery. Spoke with him this morning, doing very well, and just going to go through the process and go from there. I think we've always left the door open for Tuukka to return, and I think it just allows Jeremy to continue to progress at a natural rate, but also give him the opportunity to be at the NHL level. As you could see, we gave Daniel an opportunity to go to Calgary and establish himself there. They were excited to have him. So a little bit of a musical chair shuffle, but for all the right reasons, we just felt that we've had very strong goaltending. We wanted to continue to have that, and it was a unique opportunity to explore having Linus join our group, and we're excited about that.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
Steve Conroy.
Don, obviously, you had a lot of players to the bottom six or possibly higher than that. What does that mean for David Krejci, and have you had any more talks with him over the past 48 hours?
David and I have communicated pretty consistently over the last little while. Nothing has changed in that front. He has his own reasons, and he's going to keep those private, as I am, in terms of what his timeline is. Not unlike Tuukka, we've left things completely open-ended about him possibly returning to play for us. So there's not a definitive timeline. As you could see from several of the signings and the approach that we took, that the center ice position, a little bit by committee, that we're going to have to do that and allow some players to get into some spots and hopefully perform to the level they're capable of. Obviously, David's a unique player. He's been a tremendous Bruin and a highly productive player throughout his entire career. And again, we hope that will continue, but along that timeline of when he sees fit, not when we do. I think with Charlie Coyle coming off of surgery, again, we wanted to identify players, and really two positional players. In some cases, in Nick Foligno's case, a three-position player. All of them are good on draws. All of them have penalty killed. Several of them have played power play situations, and providing depth throughout our lineup was really important.
And do you expect to maybe move any players, or is that tied to what happens with David?
Yeah, I mean, you never know when you may or may not explore trade opportunities. We signed each and every one of these players with the intention that they're part of our club and to have a very deep hockey team. We've got a couple of young players as well that are going to be integrated in there, and hopefully we have a real competitive camp. Every player that we had the opportunity to speak with was excited about joining our group because they know they're competitive. They're led by a core group of guys that are driven to win, and we're hopeful that all of them can assimilate, seamlessly. And obviously, we'll have some challenges associated with that. But players like Nick and leadership that he brings. Tomas Nosek played in a highly competitive environment in Vegas, and Erik Haula has been close. So I just think overall, we've tried to add to the depth of our group, not knowing whether we could, again, with David and Tuukka, unique situations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Connor Ryan.
Hey, Don, looking at another signing you guys made, looking at Derek and what he brings to the blue line, what do you think he brings to this grouping? And as a whole, sizing up this market, how was it trying to navigate finding defensemen when it seems like there was so much, money, term, and trade capital kind of getting tossed out around the league?
Yeah, it was a really active market pre-draft, and obviously coming into this period, trying to navigate players that were returning to their current teams, or maybe exploring changes. Derek was a player we identified through our own scouting staffs and analytics staff that would come in and complement our group. He's played extended minutes. He's healthier. Had a rebound year from not being healthy the previous season. Went in, played in much elevated role and primary penalty killer, which is also important. Losey and Kevin Miller, picked up a lot of those details. And Derek was excited in thinking about, playing with a couple different partners we have in Charlie and Brandon, from penalty killing to elevated minute situations in a shutdown role. And we're going to need him to do that.
Kevin Dupont.
Don, this is sort of the Cliff Notes version question here in terms of, I'm just wondering how you summed up your team going into this, and as a sort of a group effort in terms of solving or coming up with solutions, if you will. Just what is all this day about, essentially, in your mind?
Well, again, I think it started early on, Kevin, with Brandon Carlo and securing an extension. We were in a position where we wanted to know what direction, that we could take this. And we've always felt that our group, our core group was so dedicated and driven to win, that how can we support that moving forward? And, we were mindful of term during this period of time, and identifying some players that would fit into that driven mindset. And Brandon sort of started that by signing long-term and allowed us to move to the next player in Taylor Hall, and fitting, starting the pieces together. If those players were not starting that process, it probably would have been much more difficult to go out and look at players that would fit in. And it was unique in the conversations with Nick. And I'm very fortunate that, Patrice had a chance to talk with him when things opened up, and because it might not have looked on the surface like Nick Foligno was a fit for our group, but I believe he is, and he did as well, which is most important in that sense, because he's got a lot of opportunity. But he comes in as a leader. He plays 3 positions. He brings an edge to his game, and he wants to win. Not unlike, obviously, Erik and Thomas. So, yeah, we were trying to identify some holes that we felt we needed to fill. Mike Reilly came in right before we had to go into free agency, and then identifying another player in Derek. We have a healthy John Moore back. Jacob DeBoer took steps. So again, you don't know where players are going to go. Several players, went back to their current teams right beforehand, and Mike's an example of that. Signed with us before he went to free agency. So at times, you're still working on guesswork, but the planning that our staff, and I'm very grateful for all of them, they put the time and effort in to be in position to identify the players first and foremost, and you have the opportunity to try and secure deals.
If I can just tag thank you. If I can just tag one on here regarding your comment about the goal. If we can roll ahead to, let's pick January 15th, and Tuukka's ready to go, if that's the case. How do those pieces fit? If you sign him, you've got these 2 other guys. How do you see that evolving?
Well, I see having, extremely good goaltending at that point in time. And again, Jeremy's in a position where we have flexibility. He could be the best goaltender. And then you feel like, okay, you not a lot of teams juggle with 3, but you have opportunity if you needed to send Jeremy down and then get to the playoffs and play the best goaltender. Ultimately, you'd have, and Linus and Tuukka in that case, as you spelled it, and that's hypothetical, but I think we're prepared in any way to go. What if you have an injury, to somebody else? I'm knocking on wood here, but obviously you're just trying to be prepared. When you're trying to be a competitive team, you have to have depth. We felt that as we went through the last 2 playoffs, and you came up short. So now we're trying to make sure that we've got the most competitive team we can, and identify if we have some needs going forward that we may have to make some changes as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joey Mack.
Hey, Don, just back to Linus for a second. Just what do you like about his competitiveness as such a young goalie?
Well, he's big. He stops a lot of pucks, way above expected, especially in 5-on-5 situations. Both our goalie coaches and Bob and Mike Dunham and our other team broke down where maybe some deficiencies in Linus's game are. They're few than a lot of goaltenders. The PK side of things is an area that we're going to shore up with him and how we kill. And address some of those things. But overall, he's just, he's in the prime of his career. He's had a lot of experience. He's had some injuries that we're going to see if we can help him address to be in the best shape possible going forward and play in a real structured environment, which I think he was excited about. He knows what our team is like to play against it. And he was excited about being on the inside of the walls, playing for us. And we're fortunate.
Thanks, Don.
Fluto.
Don, if you look at the cluster of skaters that you've signed, just how it might align with your top 6 and also your top 4, do you see this kind of filling in the blanks, so to speak, just perhaps bringing the difference or the delta between those two segments a little bit closer so that you have a more rounded 18 skater group?
Well, I think as I mentioned, Fluto, I think we're going to be a little bit more by committee overall and depth and lean on that. With experience, all the players that were brought in have significant experience. They've played in different roles. I don't think we worry about our top line too much, obviously barring injury. And then who complements down below, as I mentioned, whether it's Charlie or Erik or Nick and moving players around. Craig Smith came in and did a tremendous job, really in 3 different roles, playing up and down the lineup. And a hell of an opportunity for somebody to get net front power play duty with a group that's pretty darn good there as well. And then the internal competition, which I think is always healthy. But I think the versatility of the group, as I referenced, every one of those guys are all penalty killing guys. They were good on face-offs and they're versatile.
Emily.
Obviously, there's a lot of movement on the goalie market. Just wanted to get you, what was your take on sort of the goaltending market as a whole?
Yeah, that was one to be difficult to navigate. And again, we were fortunate. I think it was pretty well known that we were going to look to sign, a veteran goaltender. Obviously, people would question when and if we're too fit into that equation. We were honest about that, and the fact that we had some flexibility, allowing Jeremy, to have the opportunity in front of him and take the ball, and somebody was going to get a lion's share of starts, and it was an attractive position for a lot of goaltenders. So, but that was going on around the league, as you can see. Several goaltenders changed, and then when you get Seattle in the mix, that was very aggressive in free agency, but it was very different from the strategy of Vegas previously. So, trying to do a lot of forecasting, Emily, and prediction models of who might go where. I mean, it's a little bit about when the music stops, there's only going to be a couple chairs left. So, we were fortunate we were able to navigate it.
Thanks, Don.
Kirk.
Hey, Don, sorry about that. Yeah, just curious about your lower forwards that you signed today, Erik Haula and Tomas Nosek. They have a lot of experience and versatility. How do you think they fit in with your group?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Kirk, with the versatility piece. Both those guys have moved up the lineup and complemented those groups. They can play with better players. They can play down and support their lines and drive their lines. They're both comfortable starting the defensive zone. And again, playing in 2 positions, but also, they have to come in and we play a little differently in the defensive zone. So they're going to come in, they're smart players. They'll be able to adapt to that and provide balance, I think, to our group and support, younger players. Trent Frederick, he's going to go in and play the middle of the ice this year and needs help, needs support. If one of these guys is on the ice with them, they can take draws. And Curtis Lazar went through that last year, moving into the middle of the ice. So I think we have the ability to move some players around and a competition for them to want to play up the lineup. And Thomas, did a hell of a job in the playoffs last year, going and playing a lot more line 3 with Vegas, and they were excited about those opportunities.
Yeah, just looking at Nosek in particular, I was watching film on him this afternoon. Looks to be like a very good, sure-handed left shot centerman, but really competitive. And someone might knock his foot speed, but it seems to be able to get there pretty well.
Well, he arrives on time, and that's probably the hockey combination of the hockey sense and north-south attitude. And that's important as well. Guys that can, as I referenced, they're going to come into learning a little bit of new structure, but they can assimilate pretty easily in that sense. And again, 2-position player, spends a lot of time in the offensive zone, spends a lot of time with puck possession, and maybe you put some speed with him, and all of a sudden you've got a line that can play heavy, but also transition game.
Last question, Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Don, how are you?
Well, Jimmy, how are you?
Good. Just quickly, can you confirm what's the date when you want to sign a UFA before they have to pass through waivers? Is it December 21st?
No, it's really, you got to get to the waivers itself. Yeah, they have to, if they've played over in Europe or played elsewhere, they would have to clear waivers when they come back. If they haven't, they don't have to clear waivers. So anybody that went over to Europe, you'd have to clear prior to it. Otherwise, you got to beat the deadline of trade deadline in order to sign the player.
Okay, so that wouldn't apply to Tuca. Okay, and then back to Forbort. I don't know how much you saw him back in the days when he was playing in Manchester, and just if you did, what you thought of him then, and now what you see that maybe he's improved. Because I watched him a couple of times, and he always seemed to have that potential to do what he did in Winnipeg last year, become that minutes eater and shot blocker. But I just want to get your assessment of him over the years.
Well, you're right. I did see him play in Manchester, and we all identified that he had, real two-way capabilities. Got a lot of length. Was real good in a shutdown role and penalty killing. Got a great stick. Makes simple, effective plays. Obviously, he went to LA and they had a tremendous amount of success with their team. The injury derailed him for a little while, but he was back and healthy and excited about moving forward. And speaking with him today, that's exactly what he wants. He knows that he's got an opportunity to win to a potentially an elevated role here, like he was playing in Winnipeg, and some different situations. As I said, a primary penalty killer, not unlike Brandon. Those are 2 long sticks that we value, and I think Derek will be a real nice addition. When we were aggressive today to fill the holes, Derek was a part of that. But unfortunate that our ownership group, Mr. Jacobs and Cam, have said, we've got a competitive group. We're in a win mode, and Derek's a part of that, as is Mike and Nick and Thomas and Erik, and as well as even Tyler Lewington and Grosenick, and so players that we've added today, Fogarty, and again, I'm trying to make sure I name them all off because they were certain areas that we wanted to address, and we have some younger players that are going to try and break through as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, media. Next up, we'll have Linus Ullmark. We're going to end this link. If you want to hop back on the same exact link, we'll get going in just a couple minutes. Thanks again, Don.
Thank you, everybody.